They are leaning into the idea that there are white people who ride for Caitlin Clark and black people who ride for Angel Reese, and when you throw them in a bag and you mix them up, it creates action. It creates people wanting to watch the sport. It creates conversation, engagement, all the things that the WNBA has been struggling with since its inception. I applaud her for just being this honest and this transparent as opposed to hiding her hand. I'm all for this. I'm not saying that people should be racist, but there are racist people in the world. Come to the WNBA for the racism, stay for the elite passing and deep three shooting. Welcome to another episode of The Fumble. I'm your guy, Rodney, Rikai, Samaria, Terry in the building. Wagwan, sister, and how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. How are you, Rodney?
I'm cool, man. It's the day. We had an earthquake this morning, so, just getting my bearings about me. But, it's just to be expected. I think it's like our 6th earthquake in the last 8 days or something like that. There is a seismic shift happening, and I think this is just the manifestation of the energy that's in the air in LA.
Is that not scary?
No, it ain't scary, man. It ain't like, folks is out here eating cats and dogs. So, no. As long as I ain't got that, then I'm good. Let's get into the fumble.
All right, let's go. So Deshaun Watson has made headlines for yet another lawsuit. Watson is accused of sexual assault and battery and intentional infliction of emotional distress by Jane Doe. The two of them met in October of 2020. So according to this lawsuit, Rodney, they met at her apartment prior to a dinner date, and Doe is alleging that after she finished getting ready, she found Watson naked on her bed, lying face down on his stomach. Watson then asked for a groin and thigh massage, which led to her being assaulted. No formal criminal charges have been filed, and the NFL has opened up an investigation. But Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski says that Watson is still slated to start Sunday against Jacksonville. What was your reaction to another lawsuit for Deshaun Watson, Rodney?
Yeah, bro got a kink, man. I don't really understand what's up with bro. And I'm not somebody who likes to convict people in the court of public opinion, but because there's now like a laundry list, a CVS receipt level length of accusations about Deshaun Watson, I have to give much credence to this particular accusation. For the Browns organization, they have to be kind of thrilled that he's such a horn dog, because now they're going to have an opportunity to void his contract. If he is suspended, his contract, which is bloated and he's been underperforming woefully, gives the Browns a unique opportunity to wiggle about of this situation and perhaps reset their organization with a quarterback that actually has some skill and talent. I don't know what the hell happened to the Deshaun Watson from 4 or 5 years ago, but he is not the same guy anymore. And so, his horniness may be the Browns' game.
It is scary, though, to think about that kink that you just talked about, because obviously, I watch a lot of like documentaries and serial killer type stuff. And there's a lot of weirdness out here. Like, people are weird. They get off on weird stuff. And I think for him, it may be like catching people by surprise, like the shock of, oh, I'm just gonna, like, I need you to touch me, but not really touch me. Like, it's just, and these women are obviously not lying because it's very similar. I think for me, it's the Browns fans that have embraced what he's been accused of. I don't like that. Like, I don't know if you saw like some of the tailgate stuff that was out there, but they are really loving it. They're making a joke out of what he's been accused of. And I didn't like that part of it. I think that was very distasteful to me.
Yeah, I'm not one to kink shame, but when your kink infringes upon other people's ability to be comfortable in their own skin, then I gotta call you out for your kink. I wish Deshaun Watson would just go pay the $80 at the little, rub and tug spot. I don't get why he don't. You got so much money. It's such.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I think it's the surprise, because when you go to the happy ending place,
but there are people you can pay,
right? But that's what you're getting.
But he can have like a fantasy situation. He has enough money to create fantasy situations. There are people with high level kinks. But what I'm saying is, right, like, there are people who will lean into your fantasy of wanting to be surprised. Like, there are people who have sexual situations where they desire to be forcibly put into a sexual situation, but they have a conversation about it prior, and it leads in without, people feeling like they actually have been essayed rather. But there are people who lean into your kinks. And you have enough money to compensate, a thespian to lean in and be like, oh, Deshaun, put that away. Like, you can pay somebody to do that.
But in the back of his mind, though, he still what if he did do that and that wasn't enough for him? That's why I'm like, all of these stories that we keep hearing from the women that are accusing him of these things, it's the surprise, it's the shock, it's the turnaround and he naked. Like, that's what he like. It's the pure shock in the women's face, I feel like, that he gets off on.
The others were professional
right, but
masseuses, so he was already nude.
Well, but I'm saying, they came in to work. They came in as professionals. They're massaging him, and then he's making them do a sexual act. And that would probably that's shocking. Like, I came here to work, sir, not whatever you want us to do. So that's what I don't think he knows. Shocking.
Now, this allegation is alleged to have taken place back in 2020, I believe. So this is not something new that has happened. This is something from his past. Hopefully he's learned from his previous situations and understands that this behavior is abhorrent. So I do want to acknowledge that, this is, and for further context, I believe that he invited her out to dinner and she rejected his offer to be out in public and have dinner. And so they were going to have dinner at her home. I believe she was going to prepare the meal. She wasn't quite ready, went into the bathroom to get her makeup done or whatever, and that's when she came out and she saw him booty ball naked. So maybe he thought the invitation to not be out at a public restaurant and just to be inside, and I'm not justifying it by any stretch of the imagination, but maybe he just doesn't understand how to read the room back in 2020. Maybe in 2024 he does, because again, this is not a new accusation. It's just coming out to light now. So I don't know, man. You're a freak of leak. You're a freak of leak.
I hope so, because he's been in a long-term relationship, and prayers for her. Prayers.
Yeah. So he has denied these allegations as well. We need to go on record and let people know that he has denied everything about this accusation. So we will watch the process play out in real time and come to a final conclusion once all is resolved. So y'all let us know your thoughts about Deshaun Watson. Is this newest allegation something that will cost him his NFL career, or is this something else that will be swept under the rug and he can keep on playing terribly for the Cleveland Browns? So last Sunday, as many were getting ready for week 1 of the NFL season to kick off, down in Miami, Tyreek Hill was pulled over, handcuffed, forcibly taken to the ground, and got a knee in the back. Teammate Calais Campbell stopped to support his teammate and ended up himself in handcuffs as well. In released body cam footage, we see Tyreek rolling up the window of his vehicle before being dragged from his car. Samaria, my question for you is, from your vantage point, who is most at fault in this situation? The police for their aggressiveness, or Tyreek for seemingly not complying with the ask to keep his window down?
I'm going to say police, but I do want to backtrack a little bit and say that Tyreek could have just kept the window down. I can understand in that moment. I think that the players are supposed to be there 2 hours prior to kickoff. So I think it was like 11:15. So he's already running late. Maybe that's why he's speeding. Obviously there was other players still kind of trickling in, like you just said, Calais, and then Jonnu Smith also stopped and pulled over to try to help the situation. So it seemed like maybe he was trying to rush and hated that he got stopped, because his focus is to get to the game. It's week 1, and he's coming into this season as one of the top players in the NFL. So I can kind of see like maybe him being frustrated a little bit, but he could have just kept the window rolled down. And honestly, we don't even know what would have happened if he did roll the window down at that point. And he did tell the officer, don't knock on my window like that. But I'm going to have to put the onus on the police officer, because you're trained to de-escalate situations. I think they had gotten his registration, his driver's license, issue the ticket. You can call the Miami Dolphins security team if you wanted to have some more, I don't know, like if they wanted to send the ticket through them, or contact them and let them know like, hey, we just caught Tyreek speeding. Can you talk to him, or something like that? Yeah. But I think that it was definitely a power trip. I think that once the window was rolled back up, the officer just took it to another level. I think what was most heartbreaking for me was to see him forcibly put on his butt. And he's like, I just had surgery on my knee, like
Yeah,
I'm
can
gonna
we talk
sit
about
down.
that though?
I think
The man scored a touchdown with blazing speed. I think his knee is fine. I get it though. I'd be
right, but
crying wolf
but
too,
if you
just for the
get
record.
paid for your body, yeah, like I'm like, if you get paid for your body, like you don't want anybody to like forcibly put you down
Oh,
on the ground.
yeah. Even at full
I
health.
just
Even at
think
full
that
health, I
like
don't
the
want that.
window, right, exactly. I do feel like some people were saying that the window being rolled back up is a safety concern. Maybe he could have pulled out a weapon, but I'm like, this is the star wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. I don't think that he's going to shoot a police officer on his way to work. But I
So
don't know. That's just
I'm
my
gonna be
opinion.
all right. So a couple things, right? The lane that he was pulled over in is a designated lane for the Miami Dolphins players to get into the arena, right? So that far right lane is one
Mhm.
that is exclusively
Yeah.
and explicitly for Dolphins players. I'm not sure whether or not these police officers know who Tyreek Hill is, which is potentially problematic. I think that you have to have a level of understanding of who certain people are in your city. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm
Yeah.
telling you, like in Miami, especially, it's a lot of money down
Right.
there. We don't, people have cars, but not everybody is an athlete. So I don't necessarily know that you are the Tyreek Hill. And if you are familiar with the Cuban population down in Miami, they operate and exist in a very specific niche bubble. So, I don't want to go into further detail, but let me say that. Now, for Tyreek, like he is legally allowed to have his windows rolled up. But with a tint that dark, just to avoid further complication, I wish he would have kept his window down. But it does not negate the fact that there was no reason for him to be so aggressively removed from his vehicle, to have a knee placed in his back. We saw last year Scotty Scheffler, a golfer who was arrested before an event, was essentially did the same thing, was trying to make a left turn, whatever happened. But he was arrested, but without this level of force.
Yeah.
And did Tyreek Hill have an attitude? Sure, but he's also mentally preparing to go out onto the field and do battle, right? So you don't understand the mental space that he's in to prepare himself to have the performance in which he even did on that Sunday. So maybe
Mhm.
you're impeding upon my ability to focus and lock in on my job. So I got an attitude, and just because I am a black man with an attitude does not give you the authority and the right to violate my person in that way. And I feel like a lot of police officers, I can almost say most, have a real issue with black people having an attitude with them, as if we should be grateful and thankful to have been pulled over. We are treated substantially different than our white counterparts in any pullover situation, right? It's super unfortunate, man, and I feel like hopefully Tyreek will take this opportunity to create some kind of platform, maybe carry the reins from what Colin Kaepernick did years ago. Maybe there's some synergy there, because we just can't have these kind of incidents taking place, man. Can't do it.
Yeah. And I know that Tyreek is asking for that officer to be fired.
Yeah,
I
hell
definitely
yeah.
feel like there needs to be a lot of training, but at a certain point, it's like they've been training. So I'm not really sure how much
The officer said
the
it. He was
training
like,
does.
"You think you can do what you want to do? I think you got it confused."
Yeah.
Like as if
He's like, keep
bro.
crying.
Yo, police officers are not heroes. Police officers are not heroes. Like there are heroic moments that happen within the spectrum of police enforcement, but it does not inherently make you more heroic or better or more important in our society because you put a uniform on. Like I hate that notion. Some of these people just want to have a job that gives them great benefits and a pension. Like not everybody that signs up to be a police officer is out there because they want to do the greater good in society. So I hate when that argument gets brought up. As you know, like it irks the hell out of me. Like there are people who literally just want a job because they want a paycheck, fam. The same way the cat who works at Foot Locker needed money, so too do some police officers. And we got to be able to understand that just because somebody has a badge does not mean that they're trained for de-escalation or trained to learn how to navigate the nuances of society. Some of them jokers literally just want to check, but their implicit biases, the things that they have been nurtured and fostered to believe about anybody within our society will come to the surface even in lieu of having a uniform on.
Well, yeah, it was a sad situation all the way around. You all let us know in the comments, what did you make of the Tyreek Hill detainment situation, and who did you feel like was at fault? Was it Tyreek or was it the officer? So after putting up a game-high 27 points Wednesday night in a win over the Fever, A'ja Wilson became the WNBA's all-time single-season scoring leader with 956 points. A'ja leads the league in points and blocks per game. She's top 3 in rebounds and steals. Rodney, what did you make of her performance, and how legendary is it for A'ja to have almost 1,000 points with still 4 more games left in the season?
I mean, if she's the first one to reach this milestone, then it's historic in and of itself. She's having an incredible season. She's by far the best player in the entire WNBA, and she's doing everything that she's supposed to be doing. She's at the pinnacle of her sport. Like, she is on the Mount Rushmore of WNBA basketball. I didn't get a chance to check out the performance, this game particularly in itself, but just by reading the box score, you kind of know the kind of effect and impact that she's had on the game. And I thought she'll for sure be the unanimous MVP. And yeah, that's A'ja Wilson for you. Everything that we expect.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to segue into some other issues going on in the WNBA. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert was actually on CNBC this week, and she was asked about how social media has taken a darker turn amongst the players in her league. The racism, the misogyny, the bigotry. Unfortunately, though, for Kathy, she did not give the answer that some of the players, as well as the WNBA Players Association president, Terry Jackson, felt like she should have given. Unfortunately, she didn't. I'm going to just read to you what she said. She said, "That's one of the great things about the league. We do sit at this intersection of culture and sports and fashion and music. Like, the WNBA players are really looked at as kind of cultural icons. And when you have that, you have a lot of attention on you. There's no more apathy. Everybody cares. It's a little bit of Bird magic moment, if you recall, from 1979, when those 2 rookies came in from big college rivalries, one black, one white. And so we have that moment from these 2. She's talking about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Mm-hmm. But the thing about sports is that you need rivalry that makes people watch. And I feel like a lot of people wanted her to just straight out say, we have no place for homophobia, bigotry, misogyny, and racism in the WNBA. Do you feel like she missed the mark on that?
No, but I understand it. I think that people desire for everyone to just lie. Yo, the fact of the matter is, sports are better when there are storylines that evoke emotion. And she is leaning in to the emotion that people have around Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. She was just being transparent. People are so used to just saying the thing that makes them feel good inside, as opposed to just telling people what it is. I wish more companies were this honest and transparent, right? At least we know what it is. They are leaning into the idea that there are white people who ride for Caitlin Clark and black people who ride for Angel Reese. And when you throw them in a bag and you mix them up, it creates action. It creates people wanting to watch the sport. It creates conversation, engagement, all the things that the WNBA has been struggling with since its inception. I applaud her for just being this honest and this transparent, as opposed to hiding her hand. I'm all for this. I'm not saying that people should be racist, but there are racist people in the world. Come to the WNBA for the racism, stay for the elite passing and deep 3 shooting. Like, just whatever. Like, maybe the racism brought you here, but the actual game is keeping you here. Maybe that's going to happen to some people, and it'll extend the fan base.
But I think, Rodney, she missed the mark because she's not making her players feel safe. Even if she doesn't believe that, she has to. I know, but she has to come out and say, we are a league that condemns that. We do not accept any form of racism, homophobia, the misogyny, all of these things. She didn't condemn any of it. And all she had to do was say, we don't accept that in the WNBA. And so now her players looking at her sideways, and I can see why.
Why do I have to make a statement that you already know that I'm aligned with? Like, why do we need people to make these statements to make it seem as if, now we know for sure that this person is on our side?
You don't feel like she just gaslighted that? I think she gaslighted that. I feel like she gave, because the people who are listening that do have these viewpoints that are not kosher, they are going to feel enlightened. They're like, oh, okay, well, the commissioner didn't say anything. So
No, they're not. They're empowered by their own thoughts. That's not where we are as a society. Like, but if she would have said what you just asked for her to say, it wouldn't have changed anybody's approach to how they feel and what they tweet. Like people, like her making that statement isn't going to change the way people tweet. So why are we pretending as if because she didn't say the thing that she's stoking the fire of racism? Racism has existed long before the WNBA was ever in existence. So why are we pretending that a simple statement has some ability to quell whatever kind of racism and misogyny and homophobia that exists in the world? Like, we already know the WNBA is not, they are a progressive league, the most progressive league in all of sports. She's not out here telling players you can't wear that Black Lives Matter or that that politically affiliated t-shirt. She's not doing any of that. So you already know where she stands. These players have the ultimate freedom to do and exist and speak up about things that they care about at every turn. At every turn, so we know what the WNBA is. But now I'm telling you straight up, hey, there's a storyline here, and we think it's leading to us having a successful WNBA season. We're putting up record numbers across the board in viewership and sponsorship and product placement and product purchasing. So I'm just gonna tell y'all what the formula is, and we're gonna write it out so I don't have to pretend like what's happening is not what y'all don't know. We gotta stop the idea that everybody has to pretend always. Like, stop.
it's not pretending, but if you're the commissioner of a league, you should know what you should say and what you shouldn't say. And she could have even said that second point, but she could have also said in the same breath,
what does it change?
But I'm saying she could have even talked about how that has been very difficult on her.
Sure, you want the acknowledgement, and then what? And then what happens? What is that ultimately like? Okay, she said it, and now all of a sudden you feel better. How about the fact that she's allowing everyone and anyone to say and speak about anything that is of importance to them? Like, it is the most progressive league in the world. By all accounts, like, we know how they feel. We know what they feel. Why are we not looking at what is actually going on, as opposed to pretending as if some words have some greater effect than the actionable items that the WNBA is about?
Because I think that her saying that in that moment, people could say that, okay, Kathy, do you only care about the dollar bill? Do you really even care about us as people? Because you're not even standing up for us in this. This is the first time that she's even come out and talked about the darkness of social media and how things that we've talked about it on our platform, the mental health aspect, the craziness that you're seeing on social media. This is her first time coming out and talking about it, and she did not condemn it. So some of her players are questioning, how much does the WNBA actually care about us? Or are we just out? And obviously they are. They are moneymakers for the league.
Does Roger Goodell care about blackness? Does Roger Goodell's alignment with saying Black Lives Matter and putting it in the back of an end zone stop Tyreek Hill from being pulled over and have a knee in the back of his back on game day? This performative desire for so it doesn't matter. So these words don't mean anything. The action of the WNBA and its leadership says to the world, hey, we want our players involved in world and societal issues. We give them full reign to talk about all the things that are passionate to them, that matter to them. I love Natasha Cloud. She is my family, but she talks at length about all the things in the world that she has an issue with, and she has never once been silent. She has been championed and platformed. So to me, that action means the WNBA is in alignment with its players having the ultimate freedom to fight for things that matter to them. She did not need to make this statement because her actions in her work, her results in her work say that is who she is, and this is what the WNBA is. We don't need additional conversation, performative words in order to make sure that she's aligned with the greater good. We know what's going on with the WNBA. We know that she cares. Y'all let us know your thoughts on the WNBA commissioner. Did she fall short in her assurances of players' mental health and vitriol that takes place on the internet, or was she just being transparent about the business model of the WNBA?
All right, we have a very special guest on the show today, former NFL and CFL offensive lineman Garrick Jones. He now dedicates his life to advocating for athletes through his businesses and his very own football league. Garrick, thank you so much for coming on the Fumble with us today.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the opportunity platform. Yeah.
Garrick, what up, cousin, man? The beard is looking splendid, my brother. I don't know what you got going on, and I don't know who your barber is, but he is holding you down. Trust.
I appreciate it, man. Plenty of life in this beard, man. Yeah.
Let me ask you, when you just got the beard, right? Because you ain't got nothing up top. How much that haircut costs? What do we?
Man, listen,
Is it
I do
full
this,
price?
man. We cost cut over here, man. I've been cutting my hair.
You know what?
Yeah, since I was 11 years old, doc.
We aligned, brother. We are aligned. I'm excited for this conversation, man. So happy to have you here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Garrick, let's start with NIL. Last week, we talked a little bit about the Clemson football team and Dabo Swinney maybe not embracing NIL like some of the other coaches across the NCAA. What do you make of his approach to NIL? And he says that it's in God's name, image, and likeness.
I got you. Well, I think evolution in the game is inevitable. It's just like any other change. I mean, either you're gonna adapt or you're gonna die. So at the end of the day, with the way that it's going, I mean, if you can fuse your coaching style and how you look at things with the new ways of the movements, man, it really helps. Because I was pre NIL, so at the end of the day, when we came in, it was one of those things where you kind of was really stuck in that position. But nowadays, these athletes are understanding the power that they have in their names. And what they can do with that. So you kind of got to adjust that coaching style and your philosophies to that in order to put together the best team. Otherwise, you'll fall by the wayside.
Yeah. So Garrick, in the past, you've made comments that you want to change the DNA of what franchise ownership looks like, right? More representation, of course, of people who look like the bloodline of the sports that are generating so much money. And you were in the process of landing an expansion WNBA team in 2023. Why did you want to be invested in the business of the W, and what happened in your bid to acquire the team?
Well, I think just the changing of the DNA of professional sports and ownership. I mean, it's one of those things where if you get athletes in the mix in some way, shape, form, or fashion, that competitiveness, it rubs off on everybody in the building. And definitely if you're in a business mindset, you get a chance to apply that to what you're doing in that ownership situation. But in regards to the WNBA, we saw it a long time ago that the uptick in popularity and also just the way of the world and the way the sport is going and where it's headed, man, with what's happening now. We wanted to be on the front end of that. We're still in the process, and at the same time, they're making their moves and figuring out what they want to do. But ultimately, what we want to bring to the table is an all-inclusive environment, being able to bring economic development in the area that we're looking in, which is Nashville, Tennessee. And from there, being able to have the people into it and just develop the people around it, in the sport in itself, and just give it new life, because it's really going in a very good direction. The valuation of it is tremendous at this point, and it's only going to get better. So we want to be a part of that whole movement and just bring the right people to the table.
Yeah, that's crazy. I actually live in Nashville.
There we go. There we go. It's a great environment. I think the WNBA
Yeah.
really wants Nashville,
Yes.
and we get a chance to be, I think, the template for other organizations that would come in that didn't necessarily have a symbiotic relationship with a well-known NBA team in the city itself. So we want to put the template together and bring all the ancillary revenue generators to the table to be able to show other organizations and other groups how to do this thing and be at the forefront of the movement.
I'm sure you got to peek into the books a little bit, right? So, do you feel like Caitlin and Angel have sped up the WNBA's ability to operate in the black? Like, you think their arrival has, moved the timeline up a little bit?
Oh yeah. You absolutely, it fast tracked it, and that's kind of one of the things that we looked at, because we really got hot and heavy last year in September, in reference to what we were looking to do, and we wanted to bring a lot of different environments together in order to make sure that it was a sustained movement. Sports and entertainment districts, being able to have that particular organization that we want to bring to the table, be the staple of that, and be able to surround it with other sports, but the way they came in like gangbusters, man, from March Madness to the draft and everything that they're doing now, man, it's the popularity of it. And like I said, it's on an incline. I think the ascension of it is tremendous, and definitely the valuations of these teams, and to be able to even look at an organization now, it's on the rise. So we just want to be a part of the movement and add value. But they definitely are doing their thing, and I'm proud of them both, and I'm proud of that entire draft class and all the young ladies that are part of the WNBA right now.
I want to learn more about that because we have had so many conversations just about ownership in our community,
Absolutely.
or just ownership in general.
Right.
There are so many athletes who have a lot of money, so many entertainers who have a lot of money, and now I'm trying to understand: is there ever going to be a scenario in which these athletes pool their money together for the opportunity to create their own leagues and kind of, leave the NBA and the NFL and create parallel leagues? Is that something that you see is possible within the next 20 to 30 years?
Oh, absolutely. It's possible. But it has to be I think every movement needs a sacrificial lamb, so to speak, when it comes down to it. Think about the ownership structures. Like right now, you hear about a lot of minority owners in a lot of different leagues, and that's fine and that's good. Don't get me wrong. To be able to step in that arena and hold your own and be a part of those things is really good. But it's the majority ownership that being able to say, okay, I'm calling the shots, and we're putting things in play, and we're bringing the right people up, and really creating that environment, right, that where the athletes have a little more say, the fans will be able to come in and do some things, and it's about innovation, and it's about forward thinking, and it's about having the opportunity to be in that position. One of the things that I learned really quickly, when I got to the league, from my vantage point of the way I made it to the NFL, from the trunk of my car without a senior season, chasing scouts from Little Rock to LA, from LA back to Mobile, Alabama, to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
I learned that, all right, it's the business is a wild deal, right? It's a wonderful sport, but the business itself is just that. It's cutthroat. It's one of those things where once you get a chance to get in, the only way you're going to be able to change that DNA is from the inside. But the individuals that play the game have to see somebody that's cut from that same cloth, and then from there be able to say, okay, where's the safe space? Because when you have athletes, man, I mean, we're pushed through a system, unfortunately, and every level we go to, a target it gets bigger and bigger and bigger because it was on our back when we were younger. And now you got all these people that have looked at taking advantage of athletes because we're thinking about X's and O's and thinking about keeping our jobs. So we're not really looking at or come from well-to-do backgrounds when it comes to financial literacy and business. So what we're creating is a safe space for athletes to be able to come in and learn and be able to implement. Because like I say, anything's possible, but it's about those actionable items, and that's a part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing in this sports space, sports acquisitions, real estate, and really just opening the door and being able to say, hey, optically, I come from the same spots that you do, but now here's the way.
Yeah, I really commend you for that because I wanted to ask you what compelled you to kind of get into that realm. We fought for NIL for these players,
Right.
financial stability while they're in college, but then there's more that comes with that. Like you just said, the literacy of it. Like I said, what kind of compelled you to kind of get into that, and why is that so important for today's athlete?
I think for me, it just was my journey. I really look at this as a part of my purpose and my calling. Just the way I made it to the NFL, the things I had to go through in Division One, being pre NIL, and that being a major part of why I left school. Right, it was the things I was leaving at. While I was looking at leaving at home, I was looking at doing those things because I couldn't make any money. Right, I was at school year round, all those different things. So I mean, with each level comes a different devil. If we're gonna be real about it, and as you move and you start to navigate, you look at there's not a real true succession plan for the athletes. I'm in the family office space right now, and I've been there for about the last 7 to 8 years and learning, from these high net worth individuals how to set up your trust and how to set up a succession plan for your families. Once I got a chance to get in there, I said, well, this is exactly what's going on with the NFL owners, the owners of these NBA clubs. They want to pass this down to their families. But unfortunately for the athletes, we don't have a succession plan. It's next man up. Good luck to you. We paid you well. So thank you. Right. And it's not really a fair shake because of the fact of how we came in. Of course, we got paid well, but if you look at the books, we're not getting paid what we're worth. Right. That was one of the things I really learned when I first got into the NFL. I'd look at guys, and a lot of this is back when we had paper checks. A lot of the vets would be like, hey, pick that up for me, Rook, after they dropped the check. Got a chance to check out all those zeros. But then I started looking at the different people that were in the building, and then these owners were paying us with a smile on their face. So I was like, this math isn't mathing. Because if I had to pay everybody, I'll probably be, I'm gonna be a little fidgety, right? But once I really got into it and started looking at the monies that are generated and figuring out there's a reason why for the athletes that's made public, and not so much for the owners. That's kind of a private scenario. Now you get a chance to see it's better to be a check writer instead of a check chaser. So that's essentially what we're putting together.
So, as VP of the Houston NFLPA alumni chapter, I gotta ask you, man, because the NFLPA, I feel like they drop the ball quite often. Is there ever gonna be a scenario in which they fight for guaranteed contracts in the NFL? I don't understand the continued risk of body and wellness without having guaranteed money attached to it. What is the problem in solving this issue for the NFL athletes?
Well, I think it's an array of problems, right? And it needs solution based thought processes and conversations. At the end of the day, it's about the dollar. It's about having the opportunity to figure out how to facilitate the change we want to see. So I believe, and this is something that I believe in my heart of hearts, and it's one of those things where if we're able to figure out how to bring in other revenue models and implement that in what's already going on and add that value, it's something that could be done. But it's all about innovative thought processes and those things, and not to down talk to owners or anything like that, because I want to be an owner, right? I want to be in a position to help the NFL when it comes down to generating more revenue, which means more revenue for the athletes, which means better environments for the fans, and so on and so forth. But being able to bring ancillary revenue generators to the table, bringing the DeFi space to the table, bringing all the things that would change the game for the better, helps us say, okay, now how can we take these things that are generating extra revenue to be able to give the actual guaranteed contract scenario, hell, even the guaranteed healthcare after you're done. Because in the NFL, after you're done, you get 5 years, and
Yeah,
good luck to
5
you.
years, 5
Right?
years.
Right. So
Yep, from your last snap.
yeah, having gone through that, those are the things that we've done the heavy lifting and all of the different aspects of what I put together. That's the developmental league, in which that would be a true developmental situation for the actual NFL, and also the referees, the coaches, the whole 9 yards that I intend to bring to the table when the time is right. But it's about solutions, man. And we can talk all day about, okay, why this and why that, but at the end of the day, it's about finding those solutions and using actionable items to get there. And that's all I'm about, man. I'm like Marshawn Lynch, man. We're about this action, boss.
All right, Garrick, earlier in the show, we were talking about the Tyreek Hill situation. Obviously, he was detained before the game Sunday against the Jaguars. What did you make once you saw the body cam video?
I think that scenario and that situation is I think it's a precursor or a marker, I'm sorry, of what today's environment is. I think a lot of times everybody wakes up on 10 when it comes down to everything that's going on in society today. It's a big topic. I think it goes both ways in reference to how that situation happened and was handled. There's a lot of different things that went down inside of that. If you really look at it and you break it down, that I believe could have been avoided on both sides, right? I think for Tyreek, his job that day was to get to work and make sure that he did his job in order to make sure that his family's good, even though he still got to do that. If he wasn't Tyreek Hill, I don't think it would have went that way, because a lot
Nope.
of us, we wake up fitting the description. I've been on this earth 45 years, and I fit the description each and every day, right? So we go through it, right? And it would have been a very unfortunate situation if it were not him. In reference to the officer, like I say, a lot of times the way things are set up and the way things go nowadays, it's everybody's not necessarily listening to understand. They're listening to respond. And in that way, there's no communication when it goes down. So there's got to be a level of sensitivity training across the board. That's in this system that we're in, that's in the NFL as well. How to avoid these situations. It's got to be a level of diplomacy in this thing, man, because the objective is to go home at the end of the day, and that could have very well turned into something where somebody didn't go home. And it's sad that it's like that these days, but it could have been handled very differently and a lot better on both ends. Because just to get into it, man, like I say, these are fathers, these are providers, these are individuals, who are married and whatnot, whatever the deal may be. But if they're not going to make it home, now you have this chain reaction. There's a butterfly effect. And that's what I looked at. I hope and I pray that this could be a teachable moment across the board because of the way things look nowadays. Everybody's got a camera. Everybody has an opinion. And those opinions can spiral out of control really quickly and snowball and turn into something that we don't want to see. So I'm thankful that he made it to work. I'm thankful that it didn't escalate to where it could have been because we've seen some things happen, right? And those things right there, we got to eliminate them across the board. So it's going to take all of us to get together and get this thing together because, right now, man, I hated to see that. I really did.
But in that instance, who is more responsible for the escalation of the situation, right? Is it Tyreek for not rolling his window down? Is it the cop for being hyper aggressive?
Right.
Like if that was you in that situation, in that vehicle, what are you doing differently from Tyreek to hopefully not have the same kind of outcome that he had?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to comply, right? That's what I talk to my youngsters about right now because they're learning to drive and are at that age. It's about making it home, right? It's about making it to where you need to be. So there's a level of compliance that has to be had. And like I say, everybody's hypersensitive at this particular point. He woke up on 10, both sides. I'll be honest with you. And it's unfortunate that it went down like that because it could have very well been avoided, definitely from Tyreek Hill's side. And then the officer side as well, because when there's not a level of compliance, automatically we're going from 0 to 100, right? And that's not good at all because now the testosterone kicks in, and before you know it, it's a melee, and it's a situation where somebody couldn't come home. Somebody wouldn't come home, rather. So I'm just thankful that it didn't get to that point and be another scenario of where we're looking at a George Floyd situation on national TV again, right? We got to figure it out, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, but yeah, it could have been avoided. It could have been avoided.
And how devastating was it for you to see his teammates, Calais Campbell and Jonnu Smith, get detained and berated because they were really just trying to help their teammate? They're not even understanding what's going on.
Right. Yeah, that's hard to see because as a teammate, you're in the mindset of going to war for your teammate on that field. So when you see him in that position, it's automatic. As an athlete, that's automatic because you've been on the field with that individual. You've been in training camp with that individual. You sweat, you bled with that individual. So you're going to go help, right? And the fact that you are a ball player, you're a little bit bigger than everybody else, so it's a little intimidating,
A
right?
little bit.
Right, exactly.
A little bit.
You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times when you're in those positions, it's like me. I'm 6'5", 6'6" on a good day, over 300 pounds, right? If I don't really think about what I'm doing and I fly off the handle, it's a good chance I won't come home. So I have to be really thought forward in what I'm thinking about when I'm moving around. I have to be real intentional about how I move. But at that particular point, when you see your teammate on the ground like that, no, it's game time at that point for those guys. And when they're trying to get their clarity, and because all that testosterone is going around and nobody's listening, everybody's trying to respond and just, get their points across, that's never a good thing. So yeah, like I say, it has to be some training coming from the NFL in that regard. And from there, and the same thing with the police force and so on and so forth. But man, that's a hard deal to see your teammate on the ground like that, man, because you're taught to pick him up and help him,
So I want to ask you about the Canadian Football League.
Right.
I know you're trying to get into the business of the Edmonton Elks, man. Because we don't necessarily have access, or I haven't always watched Canadian football. What is the energy around the league? How does it compare to the NFL? And do you intend on having somewhat of a farming system from the CFL to help guys get into the NFL?
Oh man, the CFL was probably the best time of my life as a player. I did around 6 years or so, and it's really how I got my shot in the NFL. After I was released from Jacksonville, I went straight to Winnipeg and had a really good time there, which was my senior year of school. If you really look at it, that was my senior season of playing the game. To me, man, just the atmosphere up there is electric. It was one of the best times that I ever had. So definitely we want to get into, from the standpoint of ownership, we want to own a lot of different teams and a lot of different leagues, right? And we want to be able to implement what we're bringing to the table from the development of the athletes, the fans, the families, all those different things. But the financial literacy component, making sure that they're going to be good, because up there you don't really make a lot of money playing, but if you open your mouth and you get out there in the community, you can make a lot of money. With other things that are going on like oil and gas, there's a lot of entrepreneurship, business, restaurant owners, things of that nature, and the people are really
Yeah.
good, right? So it's set up to be offset somehow. But in the NFL, you're making a lot more money. It's a lot more stringent when it comes down to time requirements. And that's kind of the deal, right? It's all that. It's all NFL, and then the guys don't have much of a break. So when guys do get a break, I think that's why a lot of guys get in a lot of trouble, because they've just been cooped up and it's been real regimented, right? So in the CFL, I think they only have you like 4 hours a day. And then you got the rest of the time off. So if you really don't have a lot going on, guys can get in trouble too, because it's trouble to find you,
Yeah.
right? So,
That idle time
oh
is a devil's
man, come
playground.
on, man. But
Yeah.
I've always
Yeah, we
been
know.
about business, man. But unfortunately, a lot of athletes aren't. So now they're playing, Madden and NCAA, and they're still in that college mind frame a lot of times. But I think the CFL is like I say, it's a really good league. We put our bid in for Edmonton. Unfortunately, we didn't make the cut.
Oh
It
man.
was a lot of, they wanted to go with more of a localized ownership group, which I get completely. But we want to change that dynamic, because, a lot of American players are playing up there. So,
Yeah.
that's got to account for some at some point, right? And then if you bring in good business, that's the main thing, bringing that good business up there and helping the league really, really change its values and valuation. So, like I say, innovation is really scary for a lot of groups and organizations and leagues that have done things the way they've done things. But to go back to what you were saying about leagues that can actually run parallel and even compete, oh, it's doable. Trust me. We have some things set up, in the event that they don't want to play and they don't want to, let us into the sandbox. We have some things that, we have lined up to be able to have fun and teach and put people in the best positions to be pillars of society and the community. So everything about me is solution based, man. I want to work with everybody, but at the end of the day, it's about leaving a legacy, and that's what we own, man.
You got to be careful though. You see, when people have a vested interest in the way in which they do in the NBA and NFL, they tend to squash out those who have visions that exist outside of their personal
Yeah,
understanding, right? So
absolutely.
whether you look at like an Ice Cube, I've never seen a Big Three highlight on ESPN in my life.
Nah,
Yeah, I
nah.
think that's a little bit weird considering the level of athletes that Cube has in the Big Three,
Yes, sir.
right? And so there's an intention behind making sure that he doesn't get but so much light.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I wish you all the best in your endeavors and navigating that space. I can't imagine having to kiss so much ass, because I feel like, and listen, you can be as polished as you want to,
Yeah.
brother. I've heard stories of what it requires to be a owner of a sports franchise, and I wish you nothing but the best. Because I hear
Yeah.
you gotta be real accommodating to egos.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
just
yeah,
say
yeah.
that,
That's,
real accommodating.
man, listen, egos and greed, as long as you can feed that monster, it'll grow, right? So it's kind of one of those things
Yeah.
where you got to make sure everybody's eating the right way. But with me, man, it's chess with me, doc. It's really
I peep it.
calculated. It's really calculated, man. The
I
thing
see you.
about it
You a
is,
killer.
yeah, man, this real estate, it
Yeah.
is what it is, man. So I mean, at the end of the day, I think if everybody's in a position to win, and the powers that be are in a position to win even more, they're gonna be all right. We'll get it figured out,
Hey, you good, man. You real good. You got politician energy. You know how to pivot. You like, yo, I'm gonna
Oh,
get it back on
absolutely.
track. No way.
Absolutely. You have to, man. I mean, this is in order to change the game, you got to play it, man. And I tell you guys, I had a couple of individuals and a couple of groups reach out to me, and they were like, "Well, if the NFL is that bad, why would you want to go back in?" I said, "Well, the way I made it, less than 1% of all athletes make it into the NFL, and I did it without a senior season, right? I did it. I went the long way. And this next portion is just the second act of what I've been able to do, but." In actuality, man, when you get the flu and you go to the doctor, he's not going to prescribe a lotion or anything or an ointment for you to rub on in order to get better. He's going to give you a shot. So, in order to change the DNA, we got to be on the inside in order to do that. So, we putting it together, man. We're putting it together.
All right.
I love that, Garrick. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
coming on with this. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. We learned so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, man. Anytime you guys need me, I'm here for you. I promise you. I appreciate the platform.
Bet that. We look forward to the day when you finally land that franchise, brother. We'll be rooting. So technology is tricky for a lot of people, but for our elders, it is especially challenging. Yo, honestly, I can't tell you how many times my mom has called me to ask for help with something as simple as adding an attachment to an email. But nothing irritates me more than when the elders hit me up to ask for something social media related. It's like, why are you even on social media, fam? But now I understand. After we all heard Shannon Sharp clap some cheeks on IG Live, maybe I need to be a little bit more empathetic in helping the aging boomers figure out technology and social media specifically. By now, we have all heard the audio of Shannon getting busy. By the way, you are a real freak if you listen for the entire thing. Initially, Shannon, or whoever runs his socials, tried to say that he had been hacked, but it was clear that it was his voice in the video, especially when I heard him say, "This ass is mine." I don't know if you heard that, but I did hear that one line. Inevitably, Shannon on YouTube Live copped to the video and admitted he was indeed the one putting in the work we all heard and were snickering at. And despite promoting a male sexual enhancing drug on multiple occasions, seemed very sincere in his embarrassment and apology. The YouTube Live was hilarious for me. Chad Johnson was hysterical, and I guess the only thing to do at that point is to laugh at yourself when something like this happens. I felt like Shannon tried on just one too many times to promote his stroke game, but I guess that's what you're supposed to do as well. You got to promote the stroke game when everybody was hearing it, especially when you're 60 years old. Anyway, Samaria, I'm off on a tangent right now. I'm going to give Shannon the fumble of the week just for not knowing how to use technology. I'm not going to shame him, for having sex because he's an adult. But do you think this incident will lead to Shannon's dismissal at ESPN?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But what I will say is, I think it's scripted. But we're gonna go down. I literally watched the live. I took notes because I was like, "What is going on?" At one point, there were 213,000 people in the chat.
Money.
213,000 people, and like you just mentioned, he had some erection pills that he was promoting. I don't know if they were doing sponsorships with him before, but they definitely were on there. Yesterday, several times, he made sure to promote all of Nightcap's, like the paraphernalia, all that stuff, anything that he has. He's like, y'all go follow my media company before they even got started. At the beginning, Shannon was laughing. Ocho Cinco was disgusted, and so was I. I do not understand how you can
Ocho Cinco was joking.
He was disgusted, and I was disgusted. How do you throw a phone on as many buttons as it takes to get on IG Live, as many times as they ask you, like, are you sure you want to go live? And you're trying to tell me you threw your phone on the bed and then the live just came on. Like, it's something off about that. And this is where at first I was like, okay, this is sincere, right? He said he was embarrassed. He cried, all of these things. But when he said that Cat Williams called him, and the first thing that Cat said was, oh, I guess they're going to have to debunk these gay rumors. I feel like Wendy right now. Like, what does this mean? This is what this was for. The gay rumors. He kept talking about how he gets down. Rodney, why are you continuously talking about how you get down in the bed, how you do these things? He literally said, I wrote it down, these draws will be in the Hall of Fame. Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
On September 11th, 2024.
He's making
Rodney, it came. And then you got Ocho like, well, see, it was a Michelle and not a Michael. It seemed to me like it was scripted, and this was to, like I said, dispel those rumors that have been lingering around him, like a dark cloud that maybe he's gay or whatever. And obviously, if that's how you roll, like, that's on you. But I feel like that's what it was, because he used this opportunity to make more money. It was a marketing thing. And it was also for him to be able to tell the world how good his stroke game is. And that is not the like, if this was like legit, I feel like it would have been like a written statement.
He
not
didn't owe
you up
anybody
here
an
playing
apology though.
With,
what did he need to
well,
apologize
then don't
for?
say anything. Like, okay, well, don't say anything. That's what I'm saying. It felt like it was. Rodney.
No.
It felt
you gotta
like
say
it
something.
was scripted. Okay, so
okay,
you
felt like
you could have written out a statement from your team. It seemed to me like the way that they were talking in the live is that his goal was to make sure that people knew that he liked women and that he was going to keep having sex with women but he's going to leave his phone in the car. It did
I don't
not.
think. I think that Shannon was fine with the rumors swirling about him. They've been going on for a very, very long time. He never felt compelled to go on IG Live before. And at this stage of his life, like at 56 years old, I don't think he feels like he has to oversell what his sexual orientation is.
So
I
he
think this
did
was an
that,
embarrassing.
Rodney, on the live. That's all he did on the live was
Yeah,
oversell.
I think he's making light of a situation. He is turning grapes into wine. This is what he's doing. Like, this is a crazy situation. Forget it, man. I'm just gonna lean into it. That's what you have to do in situations like this. You can't be up there all distraught, man. I can't believe I'm back. Like, there's a point in which, and he is in the media game, right? Like, he is a storyteller, and he's had one of the best careers, one of the best years for anybody in media, starting at the top of the year with his Cat Williams interview. I think that he just did a masterful job of owning this moment, taking it, making light of a situation. It's something that was unfortunate that happened, but I don't know what kind of sheets he has. Like, there are sheets that literally, if you put your phone face down, it'll just start tapping buttons. Like that. Like, that's a thing. Maybe he has a crack in his screen, and he has a screen sensitivity. There are a lot of things that could have taken place that got him on IG Live. He has never gone on IG Live before in his life, and so I don't think his first time venturing on IG Live was him getting, some draws. Like, I don't see that being the scenario. I think this is all just coincidence. Like, if my tape leaks, if I have a tape that ever leaks, like, I'm just like, I have to lean into it, Like, I'm gonna just be like, hey man, this is what I got. This is who I am. This is how I get down. Because anything short of that, right, is counterproductive to his business model. He is in the business of generating eyeballs. And so when an incident happened that generated some eyeballs, he took it a step further, got a sponsorship, right? And then had 213,000 people in the live. That video will now go on YouTube and probably go on to do 5 or 10 million views. That's another big check. I turned a moment of embarrassment and shame into financial gain. That's what most of society does. We watch reality TV and all these marriage and love shows, people turning their embarrassing love life into public fodder. That's what he did. Well, y'all let us know your thoughts on my fumble of the week. Do you feel like Shannon Sharpe was intentionally on IG Live clapping cheeks, or was this all just a mistake? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section.
All right, that's all we have for this week. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another great episode of The Fumble. Make sure to subscribe to The Fumble and at The Fumble Sports on all of our social media platforms. We deliver the latest in sports every day on our YouTube page with our girl Jackie Ray, and then every Friday right here at The Fumble with myself, Samaria Terry, and my co-host, Rodney Rikai.
Y'all have a good one. Make sure you hide your cats and hide your dogs. They are coming for everybody.